Paul decided to bring his dad on stream, and I've decided to attack his family. Some of this is pretty crazy, like taking over Greenland and apparently Canada. And there's some point where his dad goes on like a tirade about how women belong in the kitchen or something.
Based.
Have you watched this already?
I plan to tomorrow, but I didn't know we were doing this tonight.
We're going to skip around because it's 3 hours long. So we're only going to do like a couple excerpts of it. It'll be a short video.
He reconciled with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad still holds like these views.
Yeah, and I mean, whatever. I don't want to like comment about whether his relationship with his dad really.
Paul will not live in a red state.
Yeah, I don't know. I know how this is going to get construed by some people. I'm not commenting on Paul's relationship with his dad. I'm commenting on how what we're going to see is Paul's dad say some outrageous things and how Paul just completely reinforced those things back to him instead of putting up opposition or something. I don't know if he ever goes on camera.
The trumpet story from Dad. We talked about that last night, and it seems like
he's in the screenshot
the same way.
Yeah, I know. He's in the thumbnail. But
expecting me to have a beard and long hair. Is that the deal?
No. Well, I think I've told them that you keep a clean cut.
He sounds just like his dad.
Versus my kind of. What would you say this is? If you had to give it a name.
His dad seems a lot more soft-spoken.
Grizzly Adams?
Grizzly Adams, yeah.
His dad sounds like he sounded like 10 years ago.
His dad probably doesn't have like decades of weed and cigarettes ruining his
I don't know
voice.
I don't know if he does or not.
Based means cool. Based means good. They're saying you're based for leading a union at
You
one
didn't
point.
tell them all those stories, did you?
I told them some of them, yeah.
The crying towel?
I told them about the crying towel.
What's the crying towel? Do you know?
It's like the crying game. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if you're watching this or not.
I changed it.
You've never heard him talk about the crying towel?
If he did,
yeah,
it went over my head.
Okay.
When you were hired.
In fact, if we caught the guy that put that crying towel in your locker, I would be the guy in there defending him and trying to keep his job for it. Oh, he got so mad after that. So,
Yeah, I know. I remember that was one of the reasons why.
a year after I took that job.
Which is super odd.
Which taught me tolerance and patience. And
yeah. Barbecues and such. I learned all these names and what their positions and what they were and stuff. You guys went and picketed a few times, right?
Yeah.
And did you find that like a lot of people in the union participated?
Wait, but did he not picket? He picketed with them, I thought. Hold on.
That's the lore.
Get full union status when you.
Yeah, didn't Paul say that his parents had him as a kid, like walking the line?
Some parents I've seen like have their children hold signs. Usually it's the Christian fundamentalists.
No, but Paul specifically has said he's gone to like union strikes, right?
Yeah, but he was never like an adult when it happened.
Right, but he said as a kid he went and did that, right? That's established lore that Paul has claimed before. And that's one of the reasons why he has this cred, because he's participated in direct union action since he was a child.
Like he read Stephen King since he was a child.
But I'm just curious because what he just said here sounded kind of weird.
Service or whatever.
Yeah, when you first get the job, you're on probation, your probationary period.
Right.
The company can fire you for any reason.
For cause.
They don't even need cause
Right.
during that probationary period.
Sure.
But once you finally do that, and then they start taking dues out of your check,
You get your card.
They have to give you,
Right.
go through the steps.
Did you think that the union was a particularly was it a vibrant union? Was there a lot of participation, or did you feel like most people took it for granted and didn't really like the meetings and the get-togethers and the union activism and stuff? 'Cause you guys went and picketed a few times, right?
Yeah.
And
you guys went and picketed a few times, right? That doesn't sound like, hey, Dad, remember when you took me to the union picket, right?
I see what you're talking about now.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do now.
It is an interesting way to ask your father that question if you were there with him doing it, right? And if it's such a big part of like your childhood. I don't know.
that's me. You jerk.
It was like Paul, but younger.
Yeah, totally. Dude, we're so mean to Paul. I'm going to have to edit all this out. Like, what is going on here, bro? This is so fucked up. What did he do to himself? Dude, this is new, right? This is so new. Whatever's going on here. This is a rapid decline. He's aging like a president. This is crazy.
Yeah, I told him how old you were. Does Paul Sr. have any criticisms of unionization conceptually? Like overall, like what would
Does his dad have criticisms of unions?
like you used to work as a
Paul's a huge labor leftist. This is his most important issue, right? So I'm sure
Yeah,
Paul
but
is going to
also-
ardently defend unions here.
Unions in his dad's day and unions of today are vastly different.
I don't know.
Oh God, let me.
Let's listen to what they say.
Unfortunately, I think as unions got bigger, corruption got worse. Of
course.
You look at Teamsters, they can be a little bit abusive, I think, abusing their privileges and pushing things.
Yeah.
But money corrupts.
Mhm.
So I think in the very beginning, the very first unions were around the coal mines, south of West Virginia, and the way the union got started was they found that the pension plan that they had was building funds. They weren't paying out any pensions. People were dying of black lung, and that's when the unions got involved. You're killing our people, and they pushed for safety for the employees, and then it kind of turned into we're going to be in between you and the company and help you. And by organizing together, it gave them power to get a healthier environment and the mass and things that they really needed. And in those days, I think unions were needed desperately. The sweatshops,
But not now.
people abusing employees and taking advantage.
Wait, but okay.
I think union.
Because he thinks that companies now take their environmental safety serious.
They sure do.
He thinks that now does he think safety companies or safety standards are self-imposed? Is that what he thinks?
In some industries now, I think it's outlived its purpose. It's gotten away from its original goals, and like I said, if companies took care of their employees and valued them, there would be no need for unionization. I think, not that I'm a big fan of Tesla.
But they don't. Not that I'm a big fan of Tesla.
It's not union. But he takes care of his employees, very demanding of them, but he rewards them properly and takes care of them.
Elon Musk takes care of his employees. He's demanding and he rewards them. And that's why they don't unionize. No, Elon Musk is a union buster, right? It's not like the employees at Tesla just love him so much so they've never tried to unionize. That's not true.
Hello?
The UAW has tried for years to organize Tesla factory workers. In November 2023, the UAW announced renewed unionization efforts. The NLRB has ruled that Tesla broke the law by barring factory workers in California from wearing union t-shirts, and when Musk tweeted that employees would lose their stock options if they unionized. Tesla's stance against unionization has led to it being listed as one of the worst union busters in 2023. I mean, why would you think that Elon Musk is a union buster? That's why people haven't unionized at Tesla, not because he treats them so well. There have been efforts to unionize, and he's threatened them, and they've union busted, and yeah. So you're wrong about this.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
How to make it work better. I think if unions cared more about their people and got away from the money aspect, and if international wasn't incentivized.
but not the corporations? Wait. The unions aren't really needed because they care about money more than people. That's why we should just let the corporations do their thing. We don't need worker protections. This man really was bought by the company.
I don't know. I think that it's with the tiers and the international people and the AFL-CIO, and it's gotten so big and gotten corrupted. And I think that's sad.
Yeah.
When on a local level, most unions locally are trying to do the right thing for their people. I think that's still needed. But when it goes to the international level, I think it's gotten out of hand. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
Having been from both sides.
So money is kind of the problem. Like
money and power. I think
Yeah.
the Teamsters got corrupted and actually got involved in some gangster kind of behavior, which is not good.
Well, they worked with the mafia in some cases, to fund pensions and stuff. There's some people that would say like any port in a storm. You know what I mean? They went to the mafia because the government was so hostile to them and wouldn't help them.
So that's his way of pushback, I guess.
And so they went to this other money source. But yeah, I mean, clearly the influence corrupted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the Teamsters were gangsters. Yeah, well, some people would say that they were forced to be gangsters by the evil corporations and the governments that were bought by them. I guess that's his pushback that he's giving. I don't know.
It's definitely like everything we've talked about since you got here yesterday, political and stuff. We're just social. You start digging into it, and it's such a complex issue, right? There's not just one. If there was one button somebody could push to fix it, somebody would have hammered the button. It's like a multi.
The issue. Wait, hold on. Is the issue are unions good and needed? That's the issue. And then all you have is like your dad's misinformation about Tesla and that how, when the bigger you get, the more corrupt you are. So, but local unions are still good. So I don't know, but it's like you need more worker protections, right? It seems pretty straightforward.
I feel like a lot of times when we talk politics and stuff, we have different routes to the same conclusion, right?
Yep.
So we were talking about something, I'll tell you, like people on the left, this is not a popular thing. Like,
So wait, we agree, but we come at it from different places. What?
Amongst what you would call liberals, right? Talking about globalism. We were talking earlier about, you'd ask me how I feel about Trump, wanting to do maybe grab.
What is he talking about? Yeah, you were talking about earlier how I was talking about Trump doing what?
Canada or Greenland or whatever, right? And I
Trying to take Canada or Greenland.
said, I'm all for it, right? And I think we're maybe all for it, not for the...
And he said he's
what?
all for it.
There's no way. Go back.
to the same conclusion, right?
Yep.
So we were talking about something, I'll tell you, like people on the left, this is not a popular thing, like amongst what you would call liberals, right? Talking about globalism.
It's not a popular thing amongst what you would call liberals. I'm talking about globalization.
We were talking earlier about, you'd ask me how I feel about Trump, wanting to do maybe grab Canada or Greenland or whatever, right? And I said,
You asked me how do I feel about Trump annexing Canada or Greenland.
I'm all for it, right?
And I said I'm all for it.
I think we're maybe all for it, not for the same reasons, but ultimately I think we agreed on the need for there to be
Wait,
some
why are you for
uniform-
it, you fat retard? Why are you for it? First of all, as a liberal,
He
I
wants
guess I
to,
should say, The reason that it's insulting to say like, oh, you know, fucking we should take Canada or Greenland is because countries exist because the people there want them to exist. That's the only way they're legitimate. If a citizenry does not consent to be governed by their government, that government is illegitimate. That's why totalitarian governments are illegitimate from the liberal perspective. The reason that's so offensive to liberals are because Canadians and the people of Greenland do not want to be part of America. They do not want to be part of the United States, right? So that means that we would take them over against their will, which is terribly illiberal. That's imperialist, and that's you person who pretends to be anti-war and our foreign policy. Now what? Because you don't think countries should exist? That ideal supersedes like the people's will and their right to sovereignty and self-determination. You have no fucking morals. You're just a fucking retard. You know, I actually agree with you, Dad, but it's for stupid reasons. It's actually because in my idea of utopia, I think that people's individual wills don't matter, and all that matters is that we live in one country without arbitrary borders eventually. I know that's like something that has to happen gradually over centuries, but I'm just going to wave a wand, and I think if Trump accomplishes that through forcing himself onto people who don't want it, that's fine. And well, I'm here feeling like shit because I'm making fun of how he looks like a bloated corpse. And like, this is the shit he's saying. It's gross that I paid this man for years, that I supported him, turning into this. Disgusting.
For
I did the same.
Not necessarily equalizing, but giving people at least equalizing opportunity would do wonders, right? And then there would be no more, so-called illegal immigration, right? Or what little there was would be, like you said.
Yeah, it wouldn't be illegal immigration if we just took them over. I think we call that equalization. Even within one country, things still aren't equal. You say you want to do this for equalization, equality of opportunity, but even within one country, even within the United States, there's already gross inequality. So it's so stupid. This just shows your flawed reasoning, because you say that everything should be one country so it's all equal, but even within countries now, there's inequality. You're an idiot.
That way easier to police that Central American border at the tip of Mexico than it is that broad, wide Mexican border, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because oceans don't exist? What?
Yeah, I think...
wait, hold on. But then the cartels would just be in America, right?
Yeah.
Or are we going to go to war with the cartels? Are we going to bomb Mexico and take it over? So you're also
Barry Lake wanted to bomb Mexico.
Wait, are you for going to war with the cartels, but you're anti-war? That doesn't make any sense. You're for taking over all of North America is going to be the United States. We're going to take over all of North America. And then, boy, isn't it easier to just police the So you do also support him taking the Panama Canal.
We do have different views on that.
Somebody's got to take it.
We have different views on that. So even his socially conservative labor leftist father is like, that's a little far for me, son. I don't think we should all just take over one continent for ourselves. Force them all to be our country against their will. I don't think that's a good idea.
I think Trump is going to be in there for 4 years. He's already kind of 100 days in. And I see an urgency that he didn't have the first go-around. He's really trying to fix everything, knowing that in 4 years.
Yeah, he's really trying to fix everything, retard. That's what he's doing.
He's not going to be able to. I know there's talk of him running again.
I mean, he says he's running again.
If I was him, I would run, all right.
Run away.
I'd take my money and go to the golf course and never get involved in that stuff again. So
yeah.
I'm happy that he's willing to get in there and try to help. So we'll see.
Yeah, so what? I'm happy that he's trying to get in there to help. We'll see. Look at Paul's face here to that. Yeah, Dad, it's like, that's
he's like,
Paul, hold on.
Man, I wish I could say that out loud. But audience.
Too bad you're a disingenuous cuck and you can't be honest with your father.
Where's the pushback?
Was it not 2 weeks ago that Paul was talking about how Trump is an evil pit of narcissism with no bottom, and how we underestimated how fucking evil he is? How he's just a bottomless pit of a human. Yeah. So he's well aware of how evil Trump is. And actually, his way of saying that, you guys, I still said Trump bad the whole time. Trump is terrible. I've been saying bad. I've been saying Trump bad. I've been saying he's like Bush. He's terrible. Like, that was his walk back in the last video we watched, right? So what's he going to say to his dad here about how his dad is just happy Trump's willing to help for the good of us all?
We'll see. We got 4 years, and hopefully we'll get things turned around on the immigration front. And I I don't believe in manifest destiny like it used to be, where we go in and kill the people and take over the land and things like that. I'm not there. But
well, that's not immigration. That's okay. So manifest destiny would be like, let's take over Canada, Greenland, and Mexico because that's our Christian duty, right? That's like God has ordained that land for us. That's like manifest destiny. That was just the propaganda used by like the early 1800s Americans for their excuse to genocide the Native Americans and take their land.
But if Greenland's out there on their side and we have interests, their raw materials, their strategic location, it's good for America. Why not bring them into the fold? Because
they don't want to be brought into the fold. Because nobody in Greenland wants that. That's why. What do you mean why? God, these people are so morally bankrupt, honestly. This is what happened. This is like people who hate liberals are like this. They don't understand, like, no, actually what people choose is what's important, right? Even if we have economic reasons for wanting to steal Greenland, that doesn't supersede their sovereignty, right? Their right to self-determination. We'd rather be in Denmark than the United States, actually. You can't have us. But we have strategic reasons, so fuck you.
It's not a lot of people there. It's kind of a bleak area.
Yeah.
So I think it would help them. It'd be mutually beneficial. Why not? Sure. I don't like what we're doing.
Because they don't want to. That's why. Because they said no. That's why.
It's not ours.
Territories.
Yeah.
I would rather see them as a 51st state.
Well, yeah. No, I agree with you on that.
Because I'm not liking kind of how the territory thing works out for some of them. So Puerto Rico and not so good.
No. We're in agreement on that. Now, see, in terms of like, now I'm not as rosy on Trump, but I'm also not as and I get a lot of criticism for it. I'm not as doomerish, I guess, as they would say on Trump, as a lot of people on the left are.
You're not on the left. You can't even say you're on the left anymore. A leftist isn't for the American imperialism of like annexing other countries, right? That's not a leftist position. You're not on the left. You're a neocon, actually, is what you are. You're a fucking neocon. You believe in just taking all these countries into us. You've convinced yourself that it's for the liberal global utopia or something, but it doesn't matter because what countries should be, ideally, the only just country, the only just government is one that's consented to by the people it reigns over, right? So you're not on the left. You're not a liberal. You don't believe in liberal government. You don't believe in leftist government, right? There's not a lot of leftists who want to annex other countries.
Because I've just kind of been through these Republican and Democratic administrations.
You could say there are leftists who don't believe in borders, or there are anarchists on the left. That's not the same thing as making all of North America one country that we take over against their will, right? That's not the same as an anarchist, communist utopia.
And, I know Trump's done some pretty extraordinary, unprecedented things in his first 100 days, but overall...
I think he means it in the Ollivander sense.
He's violated the Constitution dozens of times. He illegally deported someone to a concentration camp in another country. He violated the Supreme Court's rule to bring them back. He arrested a judge for upholding the law, right? Those are some things he did. He's threatened to annex all those countries, but I guess you think that's a good thing, right? Paul, you must also believe that we should have Gaza too, because why not? We need it for economic reasons, and why should there be borders anyways? In fact, why don't we have Gaza? Why don't we just take Yemen too? Why not? Fuck it.
Why not?
Who cares what they want? It's what's best for us. And really, they're too dumb to know what's good for them. Otherwise, they'd want to be American anyways.
Let the eagle soar.
It's business as usual in the country. And I think people overblow and panic.
Phoebe, if you're watching this, she
is.
This is fucking horrible. You have to acknowledge that this is going on here. You have to acknowledge that Paul has these opinions. And then you have to acknowledge that he's not a leftist. He's not your ally.
Panic about things, and kind of the sky is falling when Trump got elected, and I really wasn't all that worried about it, and I still am not.
Go fuck yourself.
I'm not the most rabid, foul-mouthed liberal opponent.
I'm not going to do... I have like a dozen videos responding to this already. We'll just let it go.
When the transcript comes up, you can then see the chat.
Okay.
Because I feel like I can kind of understand why Trump voters voted for him. When you set aside the critiques and stuff of the left, I think a lot of what got him elected was that he was like disruptive, right? Like, he's not a career politician, and he kind of upsets a system that feels like stagnated and is too...
God, this dude, you know what? He's rotting from dark side energy is what's going on. He looks like someone who's been doing Sith spells. He's been tampering with the dark side of the Force. It's starting to erode his face away.
Too slow at dealing with things, and he kind of went in there and shook it up. And I feel like that goes a long way with a lot of people, because a lot of people are just disillusioned with voting for politicians who say they're going to do this, that, or the other thing, and they just never do. And so I have...
Paul, what the fuck is wrong with you? How have you neglected yourself in so many ways, but mostly your reasoning ability so much now, where this is your insight, this is your commentary? What the fuck, dude? What the fuck happened to you?
empathy for Trump voters on that front, right? I can see why he got elected. It's not a lot of liberals, if you talk to them, or leftists. It's like they can't even understand the mind of a person that would have voted for Trump, right?
No, I can understand it, right? Some people did it because they thought things and they were deceived. Other people did it because they're in a death cult, right? There are a couple of reasons why some people are just apathetic and don't care and just, I like Trump better than Harris for vibes, and did it. There are a lot of reasons why, right? Trump voters are not a monolith.
Right, and I think
Neither are
that goes
leftists.
two ways
No, neither are we.
too. I think Trump voters have a hard time imagining the mind of somebody that would vote for Kamala or that would hate Trump, right? And there's this kind of divide, and ultimately those people are more alike than different. They make the same amount of crappy money, working the same crappy job, and it really would benefit them.
Nope, because actually they range in class, they range in wealth, income. There are Kamala voters who are poor, there are Kamala voters who are wealthy, and the same is true for Trump, and they're both funded by billionaires. And there are poor people who vote for Democrats, and there are poor people who vote for Republicans, okay?
You could say both sides same.
Yeah, you could say there's a wide coalition of people doing
Things,
this.
but they seem, or when I say they, I say we seem intent on fighting rather than
Trump's biggest base is white, non-educated people who've never gone to college.
finding common ground.
It is frustrating. You look at the government and the liberal corruption that's happening, the insider trading. Some guy gets elected to the Senate, and 3 or 4 years later, he's a multimillionaire. And it's gotten away from the roots, the very beginning, when people that helped in the government and were representatives of the government were working people. They left their farms. They wanted to make a difference and help, and were eager to get back to their place because they sacrificed that while they were gone, get back to their families. So now it's a boondoggle. I'm not a boondoggle, but it's a kind of a scam.
It is. It's a grift. It's
are we too far gone? Can we fix that? I don't know if we can get it back under control, because the very people that make the laws and vote on it are the ones that are involved.
Idiot.
I don't want to.
You support Trump. Hold on, wait. What? You support Trump, who's getting who all the complaints that you just made about the government, about it being a grift and about corruption and about how these people don't care. Those things are all exasperated by Trump, by schedule effing the bureaucrats in our government, right? By making them all political appointees who are just going to do things for political points now, right? Or for corporate interests, right? You've gotten rid of like ethics codes and regulations. Deregulation is like the most obvious sign of corruption. Deregulating an industry instead of doing the will of your constituents, right? Instead of looking after the health, the safety, the quality of life of your constituents. That's like the most obvious example of corruption and the most widespread. And Trump is the president for that. Look at Joe Biden's NLRB ratings. Look at the Consumer Financial Protection Agency under Democrats that now Trump has done away with. Go fuck yourself. The things you're complaining about, you contributed to.
We're not going to see Nancy Pelosi put a bill out to stop insider trading.
No, I don't think that's going to come out of Donald Trump either, to be quite frank.
If it can come to his desk, I think he would sign it.
I don't think he would.
I don't know.
I don't think he would. I think insider trading is all too juicy. Nobody like that. That's one of the problems.
Hey, ask your dad about Trump coin, Paul. You know about Trump coin, right? Paul, they've had to have covered Trump coin. Yeah, bring up Trump coin to your dad. Bring up how Elon Musk was handing out checks for votes to your father. Bring that up. Bring up how Republicans are the epitome of the problem you're describing.
Problems that I have is I feel like that there is this kind of animosity in public between these Republicans and Democrats, but then I think as soon as the C-SPAN camera goes off, they're having a beer and they're chuckling, because ultimately I think preserving the status quo is what they really want. They want to keep the money rolling in.
Stay in power.
Right. Keep our power, keep our influence, and keep the money rolling in. And if that's all happening, who really cares? We'll promise we're going to look into this gun violence thing, but nothing will ever happen. We'll ban bump stocks and call it a day. Stagnant wages. We'll do a labor investigation. We'll have a labor subcommittee, and that happens, and whatever happens for working people, no matter who's in power, right? Not a lot. But I do know one thing. The rich have gotten way richer in the last 40 years, right? I know that much. So that seems to be the problem to me. I don't know if that's a...
Who rewrote the tax code to do that, right? Who was president in the 80s when the tax code was rewritten? Who was president in 2017 when the tax code was rewritten to benefit the wealthiest Americans and corporations? Yeah, they've gotten a lot wealthier, right?
A socialist way of looking at it, but I just feel like...
Who are the judges that passed Citizens United? Which way politically do they lean?
If money is power and absolute power corrupts absolutely, then there has to be a way to sever the connection between, like, I think you said it, right? The idea that somebody can become a senator and leave 4 years later a multimillionaire. That has to stop. That's rules about how people profit from that position.
Ask your dad if he thinks Anne Frank wrote her diary.
Ooh.
Maybe
probably.
That's where he got it from.
How do you fix that? I don't know. And I think a lot of people are frustrated like I am, and they look at Trump as being a hand grenade thrown into the mix and maybe straighten some things up.
Or force some of it to collapse and rebuild something that works, right? I get that perspective.
I'm sorry. Did his father just say, hold on. Did his father just say verbatim, I think some people look at Trump like he's a hand grenade and he's going to straighten everything out. Is that what hand grenades do? Hold on.
Yeah.
Are hand grenades
Listen to Paul
known
again
for
also.
their qualities of repairing things? Is that what they are?
Listen to what Paul says after again.
then there has to be a way to sever the connection between, like, I think you said it, right? The idea that somebody can become a senator and leave 4 years later a multimillionaire. That has to stop. You can't be enriching yourself with public office. There needs to be hard and fast rules about how people profit from that position. And that is who's going to vote that in when they're on the gravy train.
Yeah, it's a direct conflict of interest. So how do you fix that? I don't know. And I think a lot of people are frustrated like I am, and they look at Trump as being a hand grenade thrown into the mix and maybe straighten some things up.
They look at him like a hand grenade thrown into the mix that's going to straighten some things up. These people are so fucking delusional. What is a hand grenade? What is the point of even using that metaphor? Hold on. A hand grenade is an explosive. It blows things up. It destroys things, right?
Boom.
It blasts them apart, right? It's not a hammer and nails. It's not like it doesn't mend things. It doesn't straighten them out. It's not an iron, right? Like,
listen to Paul.
Why would you think that? Why would you think that blowing up a bad system is going to fix it?
Or force some of it to
I don't know.
collapse and
Ask
rebuild
TJ.
something.
My brother's been in this wheelchair for 6 years. I shot him in the face and somehow it didn't cure his paralysis. What?
Collapse and something new will be grown underneath it.
My kid broke his leg and I threw a grenade at him. It didn't fix his broken leg. What the fuck? I just made things worse. Like, yeah.
And I think it's almost been true in most cases. The ones that are complaining the most turn out to be the most corrupt. You know, Nancy Pelosi, they're fighting to keep the status quo. You know,
Nancy Pelosi is the most corrupt.
She is.
Nancy Pelosi? She's corrupt for sure. I don't know if she's the most corrupt.
we want that money flowing. We want all those companies giving us money. The pharmacy people. And,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's corrupted the whole of the Congress. So, the fact that you can serve in Congress, leave Congress, and there's not even a waiting period. You immediately start working for a lobbying agency. You use all of those connections you made in service of the people to undermine the people by buying legislation, basically. There's just, I think it should be illegal for them to trade in the stock market while they serve. I think that in order to serve, you want to serve, divest of all your stock, or put it in a trust that you can't access at all. Lock it down, no trades on your stock, or divest until you're done.
Wait, but then they could still they would still be able to manipulate it for their own personal gain if they just right? Like they would still be able to, just because they can't do, they would still be able to legislate for their own wealth in that scenario.
Because I don't see how you do it otherwise. They can just give a speech and the market will react,
Yeah, I agree.
And when you're betting on both sides, people short stocks, right? So they bet the stock is going to go down. Well, if you can give a speech that you know is going to make a sector of the market crash, what's stopping you from just shorting that whole sector of the market and making a speech? And I think a lot of that is happening. So,
More than you
How do
know.
drug into this conversation? Wow.
oh, snap. I'm sorry. Too political.
Yeah, all of a sudden, I hate talking about politics. I never talk about politics. I'm so sick of the news. I don't know how we got here, Dad.
I have to say the talks we have are healthy. We respect each other. It doesn't get to name calling or anything like that. So I like that.
Well, it hasn't yet.
You do call me Pops, which I think is mildly disrespectful.
I'm sorry. What would you prefer? Dad?
King?
I feel like it's more disrespectful to say, like, hey, who cares if we steal Greenland than to call you a fat idiot, Like, I don't know. I feel like one of those is just like a jab at you for being a douchebag. And another one is about how you're going to, like, take away the sovereignty of thousands of people. I feel like one of those makes you a bigger piece of shit and is more disrespectful. But I'm a liberal. I have stupid values.
King?
King Paul?
I'm dark woke, motherfuckers.
King Paul, okay. All right, I'll try, Pops. I'll try.
But I really enjoyed my time here visiting Paul. But he's let me use his guest room, and it's been great.
Yeah.
It feels almost like coming home. I have to say, though, we have not lived on the same roof for many years. It's been almost 30.
It's
been that long?
been, well, so it would have been 2003-ish when the last time you shared a roof.
So people send me another timestamp here.
That's constitutional. You must love your grandchildren. That's a lot of, because have you heard of the male loneliness epidemic? So men are having trouble finding mates these days.
Well, aren't there more women than men?
Yes.
But the women are so messed up? Is that the deal?
No, it's that men are having trouble being appealing to women these days. And so I think a lot of people would envy your life of having grandbabies and all of that, because I think there's a segment of men, a growing segment of younger men, who are starting to feel like that is unattainable for them. Not just economically,
Wow.
but even just the act of finding a woman that wants to settle down. And
Yeah, I mean, I think like economics is the main reason for that.
A lot of men would envy you because you have a lot of grandchildren.
Yeah, it's very important to reproduce, I guess. I don't know. I feel like straight people are going to reproduce no matter what.
Who's in the breeding cult?
I don't know. Not me for sure. And like our country is just right now, it makes it more difficult to raise a family, right? And there's so much struggle and poverty.
Absolutely.
And suffering, yeah, that it makes it so you can't really do that.
I do think society has done a disservice to young women and encourage them to go to college and not raise families. And by the time they get
That face, bro. I do think that society has done a disservice to young women in encouraging them to go to college and not raise families.
They get their career going. They find that they're no longer able to have children. It's so sad because it's so fulfilling.
Well, they can. The women can have children and go to college.
It's a little tough juggling children. It wouldn't be something.
Hey, Dad, women don't have to have kids. They can do whatever the fuck they want, right? Like some women want to have kids. Some women want to go to college. Some women want to go to college, have a career, and then have kids. Some women want to have kids and then go to college and then have a career. Some women want to do neither, right? Like that. The point of society, society should encourage women and men and everyone to not follow traditionalist gender roles and to instead choose what makes them happiest in life and pursue that. Pursue their aptitudes and their will. That's what we're trying to accomplish with liberal government, is to provide maximum freedom for people, maximum rights, right? Paul's dad is a social conservative here who believes in gender roles, I guess.
Then you would plan while you're in the middle of finals trying to raise a kid.
No, probably not. You're right there. I mean, I don't know if that kind of goes against my whole women's lib hippie feminist kind of ideas. The idea that women ought to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen and not learning.
That goes against my hippie feminist ideals. Wait, hold on. That goes against my understanding that women are people, right? Like just like me.
Right.
And also, hey, Dad, I don't have any kids either. Like, what the fuck?
It's his ideals that women are not people.
Yeah, hey, Dad, people can have perfectly fulfilling childless lives, right?
Could be a good scientist or doctor just as good as a man.
It's a good window into how your dad feels about your life, right? That it's lesser because you didn't do the right thing, have those babies.
It's implicitly there.
Yeah.
What
a douchebag.
Well, I guess your sister's a good example. She was a school teacher.
Yeah.
And then settled down and homeschooled her kids. Got 7 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Paul's dad can be swayed temporarily by like something personally happening to him and his family. It's like how he was like supposedly, according to Paul, against trans people and gender affirming surgery. And then Paul's like, well, remember that one time when I had the gynomastica, whatever it's called. He's like, oh yeah, that's right.
The mastectomy.
He was mildly a vasectomy.
The mastectomy.
Yeah, you cut out whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
the chat knows.
We know.
Yeah.
We've heard the story.
It was oh my fucking God.
Hey, Dad, remember when I got my titties removed so I could feel more masculine? Oh, yeah, I guess I do believe in gender-affirming surgery. Checkmate, atheists.
Yeah, I guess it can be done, but I think careers are not that important for women. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm sounding kind of chauvinistic. But
I guess I'm sounding kind of chauvinistic. No, you're sounding like you just see people in a very simplistic way that doesn't acknowledge their humanity, right? That's what it sounds like.
A little bit, but it's okay. I mean, it's your opinion.
Because I had children, and look at all my beautiful grandchildren.
It's not okay.
I would really miss that if I hadn't had.
I mean, Mom worked her butt off. I mean, I know she took some time off for me, but not very much for my sister, right? Yep. And
wait, hold on.
But see, the benefit of both of you working was, man, my childhood is like a dream. I tell stories about it all the time because, like who had go-karts and who had a horse that wasn't rich.
What? Did Paul have horses and go-karts?
So he didn't have a horse. He had
He just said who
access to a horse.
He just said he had a horse. Who had horses?
Yeah, I know, but he had access to horses, from what I remember, in the story he told about how when he lived in like the Valley of California that he would go horse riding as a child.
But here he's saying he had a horse.
Yeah, but he didn't own the horse.
Horses. Okay.
Like his neighbor.
Paul, tell the horse story. Let us figure this out once and for all. Yeah.
That was the boss story.
Why don't you tell me? I like how fucking Avash is a cunt for being a rich boy, but you also had a life of horses and go-karts. So
right? Right. Oh my God. He hates Vash because he sees himself in him.
That comes into play too. If Mom hadn't been working, there's no way you would have been able to hold up that whole lifestyle. Would have been a different thing. Our childhood would have been a different thing. Me and my sisters.
Dude, I hope he's not fucking dying of cancer right now. Holy shit. Look at this.
No, I see it.
Her decision to go back to work instead of...
It happened. It was there during the
what is it called?
The Lemmy.
Rotating shifts, counter shifts sometimes.
We went on opposite shifts, meaning I'd be on swing.
Yeah, kind of. Oh, you're saying it comes and goes?
Make an exchange in the parking lot of the factory.
Yeah.
So that was tough on us as a family, and I think that's when she got to drinking a little more and found a friend. And
oh boy.
Ended up torpedoing our marriage. So
yeah,
we probably should have...
Hold on. The story of their divorce. Paul's mom got drunk and cheated on his dad, I guess. Let's hear that.
He wasn't around enough for her.
Or isn't that how it always goes?
Hadn't been working, there's no way you would have been able to hold up that whole lifestyle. it would have been a different thing. Our childhood would have been a different thing. Me and my
It's hard
sisters.
to say.
Yeah, Paul, but your go-karts weren't worth your mom cheating on me. If only she had been at home and completely, subject to my whims, she wouldn't have been able to.
And Wilms.
My whims.
Her decision to go back to work instead of struggling financially was the beginning of the end for our marriage.
Well, because you guys work rotating shifts.
Bro, what does that say about
He's
your marriage?
rationalized it in his mind.
Our marriage really couldn't take your mother having autonomy. Like, you probably shouldn't have been together then. She's probably more compatible with someone else, and so are you.
Which is what
probably.
happened.
I don't know. Most marriages end in divorce. And just, that's normal, right? Like,
We
Sometimes.
went on opposite shifts, meaning I'd be on swing, she'd be on graveyard. We would literally take you out at midnight and make an exchange in the parking lot of the factory.
Yeah.
So that was tough on us as a family, and I think that's when she got to drinking a little more and found a friend, and
That was that.
ended up torpedoing our marriage. So
Yeah.
we probably should have, if we'd have struggled for a few more years, I would have made management and money would have been the issue. But in
Oh,
hindsight,
sure.
I guess it was all meant to be.
Well, I mean,
Goes
they're
for
happy with where they're
money.
at now, right? With all the grandbabies.
yeah, if only I had more money, then my marriage would have been,
And stuff. I mean, all the decisions you made led to that.
I mean, financial reasons are a reason a lot of marriages collapse, which to me, that just sounds like you shouldn't have been married in the first place. I don't know.
To say, when you get old, and I don't know how many 70-year-olds you've got.
There's a couple of oldsters that'll come through, but most of the people that are listening to us are probably in their 20s and early 30s, I would guess.
I think you and I've talked
Hey,
about some of the horrible things that's happened in my life, and PJ's been through them as well. When you're in the midst of them, it's
you say TJ
hard to see
Yeah.
any purpose in it, or
or PJ? Like, I don't know.
any
TJ.
good. But
Whatever.
I'm 70, I can look back on my life, and I see it in a different light, from a different angle. So, as tough as my marriage was, and it failed miserably, I don't regret that marriage, that 20 years that I spent, because it gave me PJ,
Right.
Zibo, and his sister Mary Jo, and all them beautiful grandkids. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, if I had to go back and they said, hey, Paul, you're going to go through this hell, but the reward is that, what do you want to do? I think I'd end up doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So, there you go. I don't know if that's wisdom or just perspective.
See, you said you had no wisdom, and then you dropped some epic level wisdom on everybody. You see?
Wait, how is that epic level wisdom? What's the wisdom? Wait, hold on. What's the wisdom? Your mom having a job ruined our marriage, but that's okay. I'd still do it again. Wow, Dad,
Yeah.
that's profound. You have profound wisdom there, Dad. Jesus.
This is his dad who told him to stop playing World of Warcraft to get a job and move out of the house. And his son now is on the internet 24/7.
Yeah. How is that profound
he's making money.
wisdom?
I don't regret that marriage, that 20 years that I spent, because it gave me PJ,
Right.
Zibo, and his sister, and all them beautiful grandkids. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, if I had to go back and they said, hey, Paul, you're going to go through this hell, but the reward is that, what do you want to do? I think I'd end up doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So, there you go. I don't know if that's wisdom or
Man.
just perspective.
See, you said you had no wisdom, and then you dropped some.
Wait, it's not wisdom
not
to say. Wait,
wisdom.
Hold on, wait. That's just your perspective, like your opinion. Like if I could go back or do my life differently or not, I'd choose not to do it.
Yeah.
That's not profound wisdom. That's just like,
That's a perspective.
yeah, whatever.
Epic level wisdom on everybody. You see what I mean? You have more wisdom
Epic level wisdom.
than you can give yourself credit for. You have enough wisdom to have humility. I haven't even gotten to that level yet. I'm at the full blown. I have every answer to everything, but I have no
No.
humility about it yet.
Well, I guess the Taoism
You're not
is
humility.
failing then. Like, holy shit. Are you no longer walking the path? I have the humility.
He's extraordinarily humble.
I have the humility to know what's best for every woman.
Yeah, and I'm glad we get to talk now. That's nice.
And I do like that PJ and I are kind of back together. We had a little out. I don't know if you talked to your...
Yeah, I told I'm pretty open.
It was almost 7 years we didn't talk.
Yeah, it was close to that. Yeah. I try and be careful how much detail I give on deeply personal things. But as far as the overview of it, they knew that you and I were estranged for a long time. Didn't-
Bro, you've
I
said
think he's talking
some-
about TJ in this one.
Bro, come on. You've said some crazy shit about your dad, about how he like tricked your mom into buying a house she couldn't afford to fuck her over, right? You've said some vile shit about him.
Didn't see
Has
eye
he?
on things. Had a big blow up.
That's what he said before.
So there's not a whole lot about me that they don't know.
Well, in general, I have to think that you and I are alike too much in some ways. And we're hard-headed, quick to forgive. And we kind of hold a grudge, and sometimes it's hard to turn loose of it.
Wait, you're quick to forgive, but you also hold a grudge?
If he says what I think he's going to say next, I'm going to kill myself.
I think you guys are alike in that you just have contradictory ideas at the same time, right? You're intellectually dishonest, right? That's how you're alike.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going on here.
Well, from my perspective, looking at it, it's like, it sucks we didn't talk for so long. It's a lot of lost time. It's one perspective you could get it, and it's certainly a true perspective, true enough. But from my perspective also, I just think that, honestly, it was less about me and you, and from my perspective, it was about me. Like, in terms of I needed, right, to rebuild my life after blowing it up. I threw a grenade into my life, basically.
Oh, a healing one,
trumped
right?
myself. What?
A healing grenade.
Yeah. A straightening grenade.
You and I had a complicated relationship, as all people, I think, have with their fathers. I think all men have a pretty complex relationship with their dad. In that moment, that time when I left my marriage and I really went wholeheartedly into this and started building my ability to have a career doing this, I needed to be ass out and alone. And if you talk to Mom, it wasn't just you I didn't talk to. I mean, Mom had contact with me. It wasn't the same thing.
This is so interesting to me. I don't know.
Nobody really heard from me for a long time. And I needed it, and maybe that's
We heard from you.
selfish and maybe that's me.
Those were the best years of your life, bro. 2015 to 2018, Paul's ego life. Are you kidding me? Come on, man. Those were the best years of your life. You were the most free. You were the most entertaining. You were the most alive. Now look at you.
Because it really wasn't about becoming a podcaster. Like, that is incidental. It was about figuring out who I really am. And it was so hard to do that. I had to sever those ties to an extent because I wasn't going to make it. I wasn't going to make the decisions that I felt I needed to make if I got drawn back. And so I look at it from that perspective. And so I have I don't regret that it happened, because it led us to a point where you and I can get together like this and talk like adults and be chill with one another. We had great times together, but we butted heads a lot too.
Yeah.
You said you think that's because we're maybe too much alike. Yeah. In what ways do you think? Well, other than just being hard-headed, obviously, just argumentative maybe, or
I think you're a very good debater, better than me.
I don't know about
that. I want to debate Paul's dad. I would love that.
But, we kind of have our beliefs and we stick up for them and try to battle in that way. I think our breakup, without getting into detail, I was in a bad place as well.
Sure.
What we talked about triggered that.
Mm-hmm.
So I reacted inappropriately, and you came back with both barrels.
Oh, yeah.
I only hit you with one.
Yeah.
You just took the rifle and beat me to death with it. And I had that. I think it was through a text message. I never had such a text.
It was an email.
It was colorful. It was email.
It was an email.
And I read through that, and it just tore me apart as a dad. It's just some things I'd forgotten about that you remember. You're like a woman. You can remember every little thing I ever did wrong. So.
Whoa.
Is the egg cracking?
No, just the casual sexism fucking came out of nowhere.
You're like a woman the way you remember everything I did wrong.
It made me feel like such a bad dad, and I was just ashamed.
Well, that was the intent.
That was it. It worked.
That was the intent.
I don't know if the end result was what you wanted. Well, that's being away from each other for that long is a regret that I
would, yeah. And I was at a point there where, I was really at a low, you know what I mean? But also at a high, because, the low point is kind of like where you can see the high water mark from. And so I was really, because, a lot of.
You were alive, Paul. You were alive. 2016, you were alive.
What led to my divorce, I think, was cross purposes, right? I loved my ex-wife. She loved me. That was never the problem. The problem was she had a very, and look, it's shared by a lot of people, a very standard view of what she wanted out of life. She wanted to be married. She wanted to have kids, and she wanted to be a professional and have her job and have a little house. And look, that is a totally noble thing. And I think most people probably fall into that.
Why is that noble? What about that is noble? Why is that a noble thing to want? When
we figured out that we couldn't have kids, she kind of, I think it hit her different than it hit me. And so it left her, I think, adrift and looking for purpose. And it left me, I hate to say it, but I'm just gonna be honest, glad. Like, not glad, but excited. Because to me,
relieved is the word you're looking for.
It was like, okay, that door closed. But if I'm not gonna have kids, that means I can travel. I can do things that parents have to sacrifice.
It's based. You get to live your own life. That's a great, fulfilling thing.
In order to have kids. And so my mind, that's how I guess I self-soothed myself through, because it was tough for me.
And also you traveled to Ohio, right? You could still travel, man. Go to Europe.
All over the world with TJ and Scotty.
Yeah, I made money with you all over the world.
You want to look at one thing that did it, but if you really are honest about it, it's a lot of little things that did it.
Well, tell me, did you, when you realized you couldn't have children, did you get with your sister and say, Mary Jo, you have a bunch to make up? I can't.
No, that was just a nice benefit. Because I got to tell you, of course, when that happened, when we found out that we weren't going to have kids, you don't go and just announce it to everybody. We were kind of playing it close to our chest because we didn't want to talk about it. And of course, at that age, when you just got married, every time you see grandma, every time you see anybody, sister, brother-in-law, when are we going to hear the pitter-patter of little feet? And it just...
Yeah, how dehumanizing, right? What the fuck is wrong with these people? Why is that the ultimate goal of their life, It
became tough.
When are you going to have babies? What?
So Mom was the biggest one, but it was everybody. It really is a cultural thing. It's you start getting pressure from your family and your friends and your uncles and your aunts and your coworkers. Subtle.
Your coworkers?
But pretty.
What? That's so wild.
But for me, knowing that I couldn't, the pain of that, the way I dealt with the pain of that was well, look at what I can now, right? So I can't do that, and that sucks. But look at what I can.
Was that around the same time frame as your marriage failing and you finding out that you couldn't have children, or had that been going on?
No, there were years. There were years between that. Yeah.
That wasn't a triggering moment.
No, but I mean, that is, I think, ultimately where it started to unravel. I think, and become.
Well, it wasn't what she pictured with you, I think.
Or for herself, or for her life, right? It was like a puzzle piece. She was very determined to have this very.
All three generations under one roof. that's it for like the political shit or the shit we can like troll him on in this video. This is just interesting to me, but I don't have a lot to say about it. So thanks for watching.